Today we're going to talk about a man who believed he could challenge the Quran and escape the consequences of his actions. A man who became the poster boy for anti-Islam factions, only to be abandoned like yesterday's trash. This is the story of Salwan Momika, the so-called hero of the atheists and secularists, who ended up getting literally burned by his own hate. Let's dive in and expose this ultimate fail. Salwan Momika, the paid shill who thought desecrating the Quran would make him famous. Oh, it did, but not in the way he expected. This guy, an Iraqi who fled to Sweden, spent his days desecrating the word of Allah, thinking he was some kind of freedom fighter. But let's be real, burning a book doesn't make you brave. It just makes you a clown. And guess what? Even the clowns in the circus have more dignity than this guy. This guy didn't know that he was nothing more than a disposable pawn for the country whose flag he'd been waving for the past year. Here's the funniest part. The same people who cheered for Momika abandoned him the moment he died. Not a single one of them claimed his body. Not one. They were all like, "Oh, you're dead. Sorry, bro. We're busy." These so-called defenders of freedom couldn't even give him a proper burial. According to journalist Khayal Muaddin, the Swedish government had to step in and cremate him. That's right. The man who spent his life burning the Quran ended up getting burned himself. Subhanallah, the irony is chef's kiss. Let's take a moment to appreciate the poetic justice here. Momika spent his life trying to destroy the Quran, but in the end, he was the one who got destroyed. The Quran is still here, unchanged, unbroken, and eternal, because Allah himself protects it. And Momika, well, let's just say his body is now part of the atmosphere, and Allah knows what's happening to his soul. But one thing's for sure, he learned the hard way that you don't mess with the word of Allah. Here's another layer of this irony. Momika was actually supported by people like little Tommy Robinson, who met him in Sweden. Little Tommy, known for his own brand of nonsense, praised Momika, saying he wasn't afraid of death.
I am in Sweden. I've come to visit a certain gentleman, and his name is Salwan. Say hello, Salwan.
Hey.
Who is not afraid of death. That's his words. He is not afraid of death because he has a message for the Swedish people and the European people.
Really, Tommy? If Momika wasn't afraid of death, then why did he flee Iraq in the first place? Surely, someone who's so brave and fearless wouldn't need to run away from his homeland, right? It's almost as if his actions were less about courage and more about seeking attention and validation from the same people who would later abandon him. Funny how that works, isn't it? And let's not forget the so-called atheist culture that supported this guy. These people claim to be enlightened and progressive, but all they do is spread hate and division. They cheer for what he did, but when it comes to standing by their own, they're nowhere to be found. They're like, "Oh, we support freedom of expression." But when it's time to take responsibility, they run faster than Usain Bolt. Pathetic, isn't it? Meanwhile, we Muslims have the Quran, the ultimate guide of life. And we have our faith, which gives us peace and purpose. While these Islamophobes are busy hating, we're busy worshiping Allah, helping others, and spreading our beautiful deen. And that's why they're so mad, because they can't break us. No matter how many Qur'ans they burn, no matter how much they hate, we will always rise above them because we have Allah on our side. So my dear brothers and sisters, let's take a moment to reflect. The story of Salwan Momika is a reminder that those who attack Islam will always fail. They can burn the Quran, they can spread their hate, but they will never win because the Quran is not just a book, it's the word of Allah. And it's eternal. And those who fight against it, well, let's just say they end up forgotten, abandoned, and burned by their own hate in this life and eternally in the hereafter. Let's continue to stand strong in our faith, united as one ummah. Remember, no matter how much you try, you will never extinguish the light of Islam. It's here to stay, whether you like it or not.